Alrighty, y'all, we should be good to get going today. We'll give it a quick moment for everybody to open the link and join us today. But first and foremost, I just wanted to thank you and show our appreciation for your time here today. I know there are tons of videos on YouTube that you could be watching, tons of different ways that you need to be spending your time as event creators to fill all the tasks that you do for your businesses. So we just wanted to start this off by thanking you. Our main goal here today is to equip you with information and knowledge to better market your upcoming events and show you tools that you can be using directly within Eventbrite to help empower you as event creators to bring people together and sell out your events. So, to briefly introduce myself, my name is Sam Jameson with the Eventbrite Boost CX team. Over the past 4 years, I've been helping event creators of all different verticals, all different sizes of events, every different platform, etc., you name it, use the power of Facebook and Instagram advertising, email marketing, etc., to drive ticket sales for their events. And today I want to share many of the findings that we have found over millions of dollars of ad spend, tons of different campaigns, to show you how you should be approaching marketing for your upcoming events. So, to go over a brief agenda of what we're going to cover today, first and foremost, we're going to cover what are some of the marketing challenges that many of us face as event creators. How are we trying to solve those issues as Eventbrite? Then we'll specifically go into how should we approach Facebook and Instagram marketing for our events, show you some examples of what some of the big dogs in the industry are doing, how they're doing things correctly, and then ultimately show you how you can recreate that same success for your events. So getting started today, for many of us, personally myself included, when I started in the event marketing space around 4 or 5 years ago, event marketing really can seem like a challenge. And I really empathize with many of you if you feel this same way approaching marketing your events, as many times it's unclear of where to get started, etc. And I want to reassure you that it doesn't have to be hard. We want to try to introduce tools to you that can make it easy to approach and get started, even if you've had difficulties with things in the past. And just a quick recap of many of the reasons we found event marketing is difficult. One, we don't really have proper guidance on what the best type of ad to run is at the right time, or what actually is the best choice for our investment in advertising. A lot of tools weren't designed for people like us in the event space. They were designed for big corporations that have millions of dollars worth of ad budgets and a team full of interns to run ad campaigns. And ultimately, a lot of us just might not have enough time in the day to really pursue some of these skills that we want to acquire for our events, such as taking a class like Facebook Blueprint, etc., a Google Ads training course. We might want to learn it, but we just don't have enough time. And then when we take the plunge and we run these campaigns, it doesn't really make sense when we're looking at the data. We can't really interpret how our investment in both money and time is translating to results for our business. So first and foremost, if you haven't seen it already, if you click over to the megaphone icon within Eventbrite, you'll find Eventbrite Boost, which is our marketing hub directly within Eventbrite. Now, our main goal with Eventbrite Boost was to equip all of you Eventbrite creators, whether you're somebody that has $0 to spend on marketing or somebody that has a large marketing budget and is looking for better ways to further optimize and get the best bang for your buck out of the ads that you may run. We want to equip all of you with a suite of tools so that you can promote your event seamlessly in the same place where you are creating your events in Eventbrite. And from an empirical standpoint, what the data has shown so far is that creators that are using these tools within Eventbrite Boost, on average, are selling around 16% more tickets for their events compared to creators that are not using these tools. This can really even be something as simple as sending out an email campaign a couple days before your event to remind interested potential purchasers to buy tickets, or publishing your event to Facebook so fans can RSVP and buy tickets directly within the Facebook event. It doesn't have to be something major that you're spending thousands of dollars on to actually see an increase in ticket sales for your event. So let's briefly cover all the different tools in Eventbrite Boost to help point you in the right direction of what tools actually make sense for you to be using based on your marketing budgets, your needs, etc. So let's start off with a couple of tools that are actually automatically included in Eventbrite. So you don't necessarily have to pay anything to be using these tools. The first one I'd recommend you use, if you haven't used it already, is the Facebook event, or what it was previously called the Add Your Event to Facebook feature. Now, essentially what this is doing is once we create an event on Eventbrite, we can easily publish that event as a Facebook event. Main benefit of Facebook events are that they allow your customers to RSVP to your event so they can get reminders about the event, because many times we don't make the decision to purchase for an upcoming event immediately after seeing that first ad or that first post. It takes a couple reminders, maybe for us to get in a timing period where there's more urgency to buy, such as maybe the last week leading up to that event. So Facebook events are a great free tool that you can use to automate reminding your interested customers about the event. They can also buy directly within that Facebook event. So very low friction to the buying process. And if you ever want to take your advertising to the next level, you can always run a campaign to help promote this Facebook event to a wider group of people. So, if I could give you a good starting point for something to do whenever you create your event on Eventbrite, I'd recommend go ahead and use the Facebook event feature. It only takes around 30 seconds to use, and then boom, you have your event published to Facebook so your customers can start RSVPing and then buying tickets as well. The next tool I would like to talk about is the email campaign tool. Now, email campaigns are always going to be one of the fundamental marketing pieces that we're using in our strategy. And within Eventbrite Boost, you can actually send up to 2,000 emails a day for free. When we're using email marketing when it comes to events, we're generally using it from either a newsletter or transactional type approach, where either maybe we're sending a general newsletter every couple weeks with a list of all of our upcoming events. So our potential buyers or our past customers, depending on what email list you're working with, can be notified of all the events that you have upcoming on the roster, or you can be using this transactionally for a specific event. So let's say, for example, we're a week out from one of our events, or maybe a couple days, and we want to send a reminder email to either our past buyers or maybe a prospect email list that we have. It's very, very easy to select any one or more Eventbrite events that you want to advertise, build a nice customizable email campaign. And one of your questions might be, Sam, why exactly would I use Eventbrite's tool here to create and send my emails? One of the major findings that we have found is that the click-through rates of the emails that you send via our email tool are drastically higher than other email platforms that you use. And the reason there being that you're tapping into Eventbrite's brand credibility. We have put in systems in place to make sure that everyone is sending really good quality emails. So these email platforms that receive emails sent from Eventbrite are generally prioritized and are less likely to show up in spam. And you're also working with the Eventbrite brand as well. So anybody can send up to 2,000 emails a day for free, just included with Eventbrite. But if you're somebody that has a larger email list, if you sign up for any of the Eventbrite Boost plans, such as the $15 plan, you can send up to 6,000 emails a day. So this might also be a good cost saving element for you compared to your existing email marketing service, especially if you're paying a lot of money and maybe have a relatively smaller list, or you don't need to send out a ton of emails every single day. Might be a lot more cost effective for you. So the two main reasons would be, first and foremost, sending out nice customizable emails with higher click-through rates, and then also potentially being able to send more emails at a cheaper cost compared to your existing email marketing service. Now, specifically today, we'll be going into our Facebook and Instagram advertising tools, but first and foremost, your main question might be, Sam, why exactly would I run my ad campaigns within Face, or why would I run my ad campaigns for Facebook or Instagram within Eventbrite instead of just going on to Facebook's platform to build those? So I promise we'll get into all that, but just wanted to give you a brief overview of the features first. And then lastly, we won't spend too much time touching on this, but if any of you are event creators that are throwing multiple events, maybe I'm talking 3 to 5 plus events in a single location in any given month, we have our multi-event ad tool, which actually allows you to set up a completely automated campaign to help market all of your events for as low as $1 to $5 a day. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. We could spend a little time going over it today. Awesome, y'all. So that kind of covers the general overview. And as always, if you have questions as we go along, there's anything I could explain in more detail or you need more context, please feel free to drop a question in the chat. I always love for these sessions to be interactive just to make sure that you're getting the most powerful information that you need to be walking away from here with. So right now we're looking at a Facebook and Instagram ad campaign that was created inside of Eventbrite Boost. So first and foremost, your main question might be, why exactly would I run my ad in here compared to just going into Facebook where I might normally hit this boost button, set a budget and a schedule, and then boom, I have an ad running to promote my event. So the first major value prop or reason why you would want to use this service is you're going to get better visibility into your ticket sales compared to running this natively on Facebook or with another platform. So you can see up towards the top here that our reporting looks a little bit different from what you see when you might run ads natively in Facebook Ads Manager. And towards the top, we're trying to present you with the most important information front and center, which normally for most of us is, how did my investment on advertising actually translate to ticket sales for my event? And the way that this works is we actually install your Facebook pixel automatically for you, which is basically a tiny little piece of code that allows you to measure sales that result from your ad campaigns. So if you haven't necessarily seen sales data for your ads before, you might not have had this installed, and we'll actually automatically install it for you when you run campaigns. Now, pixel tracking and all of this did get impacted by some recent Apple iOS updates where people can opt out. We have a workaround of that as well where we can help map via email to attribute and tie these purchases back to your ad. So first and foremost, by using this tool to build your Facebook and Instagram ads, you're going to have the best visibility out of any platform of how your ads actually translate to ticket sales. Now, scrolling down a little bit further, one of the major challenges of when we run ads directly in Facebook is we're almost putting all of our eggs in one basket. The analogy I could use, it's like we're going to Vegas, we're betting it all on black. If it does well, that's fantastic. But if it misses, we're wasting a lot of money on something that's actually not working or generating us a return. So normally in Facebook, maybe when you've ran an ad campaign before, you hit that boost button, you put $100 behind an ad, what Facebook is doing is it's going after one audience in particular called an interest audience. So this creator right here, when they were running a campaign for their music festival, they were targeting an interest audience of people interested in genres of music related to those performing at their event. So this is the way that we normally can target people that have affinity for certain things related to your event. This is a great audience for going after new people, but the challenge is that we're only addressing the top of the funnel. So if we think about marketing as a funnel where we get people to come into the funnel and then ultimately we want them to convert to ticket buyers, when you boost your ad or run it in Ads Manager, you're doing a great job of getting people into that funnel, but it's almost like you have a drainage clog that you're not helping get those people to become actual purchasers. Most individuals don't commit to buying tickets for your event just after seeing one of your ads. It takes remarketing, it takes repetition, it takes repeated exposure to your event to actually remind them to purchase, particularly during timing periods where there's more urgency to buy. So the general flow might go is, if you're just boosting your ad in Facebook, I might come across your ad, I might be interested in it, maybe I engage with it or something like that. But then if I don't purchase then and there and I don't get a reminder about that event, I might entirely forget to make that purchase. So one unique thing that Boost does to help make you more money from the ads that you run is we actually automatically craft your campaigns on the back end with an audience mix that helps you hit that full funnel. So we'll include things such as helping you remarket to your past buyers or people that interact with your social media accounts that from a statistical standpoint have a way higher likelihood of actually making those purchases. But we're not putting all the eggs in one basket. We're also using other audiences like lookalikes, which are fulfilling that same purpose as interest. They help you go after new people, but essentially you're giving Facebook some data. It analyzes what those people are like and helps you go after new people. So one of the best audiences you can use for event marketing is a lookalike of your past buyers. It's taking the data of people that buy from you already and helping you go after very similar people. So instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket, our system is helping you make a greater return from the Facebook and Instagram ads you run by spreading out our risk and then moving budget from the bad performers to the better performers. So you could see here that if this individual wasn't using a remarketing audience for their campaign and they only rolled with this interest audience, they would have missed out on audiences that actually did a better job of driving sales. So mainly just to recap, why would you use a platform like this to build your ads? One, you're going to have better visibility into how your marketing dollars and investment in advertising actually translate to sales. And then second, we're going to help get you a better return on your ads with all the automation we do on the back end and making sure you're not wasting budget on bad performing audiences. So if you have any questions before we hop to the next step, please feel free to let me know. I just want to make sure I'm addressing that if there's anything there that was a little bit unclear for y'all. Awesome. So let's go ahead and hop into an actual example of how to get started building these campaigns and what you should be considering when you go to build these ads for your events. So the way that you'll access this section is if you go into your marketing tab. So click on that marketing tab on the left for the megaphone, and then we'll go ahead and click into the ad campaign section. Now, just to specify before we go ahead and get started here, you do need to pay Facebook/Instagram for the cost of the ad. So if you want to run a $100 ad, it's paid for via whatever card or payment method you have on file for the Facebook ad account, which is basically the way we always pay for Facebook or Instagram ads. So you'll want to navigate to this section, and this will be our launching pad for getting started creating a campaign. So half the battle of running a good quality ad campaign to promote our event is running the right type of campaign at the right time based on when your customers buy. So let's say, for example, you and I, we go into business together. We are going to throw an outdoor beer festival in the middle of Vancouver in the middle of the winter, and it's 3 years out from now. No matter how much we maybe spend on advertising, we shouldn't have an expectation that our ad's going to lead to a lot of sales because there isn't urgency currently for people to buy. So the main thing you want to consider is always think about the urgency for people to purchase for your event before you dump a lot of budget behind advertising. And we tried to build a system that actually gives you recommendations. So all you need to do is choose your event that you'd like to advertise. Based on where you are on the timeline of marketing that event and that event occurring, we're actually going to give you a recommendation on what type of ad you should be running based on how your customers normally purchase. So this graph actually plots how your customers purchase over time for your events. You can see for my event that we have a big spike in ticket sales when my events go on sale. Then, since they're online events, there's not a lot of urgency, so people don't necessarily buy. And then, towards the tail end, we see a big spike in ticket sales because there's actually urgency and the event's going to happen. So, this graph should help give you some context of when do my customers on average purchase for my events, and maybe what period should I really focus on marketing to map that consumer demand with when I'm spending on advertising. And then just hit the blue button to get started building an ad campaign. So the first step of creating our ad campaign is going to be that the target audiences. So this is going to be very similar to what you've done before on Facebook, where we're simply entering an interest related to our event. So let's just take, for example, I'm marketing a yoga event or something like that. Normally what I'm doing in this section is just typing out something broad related to my event. You could almost think about you're just fishing initially and trying to see what fish are in the pond that you could even be working with. So you can't target everything in terms of an interest on Facebook. Even really big things that you think you might be able to target, sometimes it's confusing as you can't target them. Where, for example, we can target Billie Jean, but we can't target Billie Eilish, a big top performing artist nowadays that's all over social media. So I normally recommend in this section, first and foremost, you'll see some interests that automatically populate based on the event that you choose. So you could feel free to either get rid of any of those that are irrelevant or keep them in. And then you might enter in a couple interests of your own. And if we are working with a bigger budget, it's maybe okay to go a little bit broader. But if we're working with a smaller budget, we might potentially want to get more narrowed in on targeting certain interests that are really relevant to our event. So if I was advertising yoga, I might just go after a general broad type of target like yoga initially. Then I might type out yoga one more time to get a feel for what I could actually target in here. So maybe targeting other forms of yoga or people interested in various products, etc. We could also add in more broader topics such as health and wellness. That could be something that's relevant here. But maybe if I was working with a smaller budget, potentially targeting something like health might be a little bit too broad. So maybe I would want to focus on other yoga related interests here. Is this making sense, everybody, so far? Is there anything about the interest targeting that I could better clarify for you? Basically, in this section, you're just typing out a couple words related to your event, trying to find what you could target that's actually relevant, and then I'd say maybe keep the interest that you have in the campaign anywhere between 4 to 10 interests. The main thing is actually having a decently sized audience. After that, we can enter the age range for who we'd want to target. Normally, you don't have to worry about setting the age range 18 to 25 or 18 to 26. Normally, it's more important to set a lower bound for that. And based on how people interact with your ad, Facebook or Instagram will stop showing it to people in certain demographics. So after a couple bucks worth of spend, if Facebook realizes people over 65 aren't interacting with the ad at all, it might then start showcasing your ad to people 18 to 45 or something, etc. And then this section, we're entering in the location that we'd like to target for our ad campaign. And you can see when we enter in the location, it's going to change the estimated size of that audience. So if I was advertising this yoga event in the LA area, an audience size of around 5 million people is pretty big. So if I got rid of something like health in here, you could see how the audience size might change up a little bit in this section. And down towards the bottom, you can always save the audience. So if you're going to be continuously building campaigns, in many cases, we're using the same targeting for every single different type of campaign we run. So I'd recommend you can always save that audience to make it a little easier in the future. Now, the next step, the second out of the third steps that you're going to be doing, we're just entering how much do we want to spend for the ad and how long do we want the ad to run. So normally all you're doing here is using the slider to adjust how much you want to spend on the ad, and you can always toggle between a total or a per day budget. Doesn't necessarily matter which one you use. And then when it comes to scheduling your ad, if we're advertising an individual event, so an event happening once, we might potentially want to focus on approaching marketing more as a sprint compared to a marathon. So maybe we're running ads for a week or two at a time to really map and hone in on these periods where there's urgency for our customers to buy. So we're not wasting a lot of our marketing dollars on an ad that's maybe trying to get people to click on a ticketing page when they don't really have an interest to do that. And then if we're advertising recurring events or events that are happening every couple of weeks or something like that, we might approach marketing as more of a marathon where we have an always on ad that we're running, maybe on a small daily budget or something like that. And the last step of creating your ad is defining what you want that ad creative to look like. So to briefly cover the anatomy of the important parts of your ad, up towards the top right here, this is going to be our post text or the text in the ad. This is normally trying to give people context on what's our event about, when and where is our event happening, and is there any important urgency that I should know about as somebody that might want to buy for your event. So using language that indicates to people like, you're going to potentially miss out if you don't get your tickets now, or if tickets are selling really quickly, addressing that somewhere in your ad can always help lead to more sales in the interim when you're marketing. After that, we have the image or video, which largely is the most important part of your ad that you're creating. It's really what captures people's attention and draws them in to actually interact and check out your content for your event. So if you are considering on running ad campaigns, I'd highly recommend try to come to the table with strong video creative if you can. I know a lot of us are working with whatever we have to work with, or sometimes what our marketing agency might provide us with. But I'd highly recommend, even at your event, if you don't have video content, you could whip out your phone. You could shoot a quick video or something like that that gives people context of what is the experience of attending this event actually like. Events are really experience driven scenarios where we want to be giving people context of what would the experience be like if I were to give you my money and then go drive and go actually attend your event. So the more you can get that across with either the language you use or the ad creatives, the more likely you are to see your ad actually translate to ticket sales. Then after that, we have our link headline and link description. These are kind of more afterthoughts a lot of times. The link headline, generally you're putting in the name of your event, and the link description, which actually doesn't even show up on every ad placement, doesn't show up on the Instagram ad placements. It just aims to give context on this call to action button, which is the button that people click when they end up interacting with your ad. So the the buy button or the call to action that you're using, normally in a lot of cases I'd recommend use buy tickets if it's a paid event. But if it is a free event, potentially using something like sign up or a different call to action might make more sense. So up towards the top, first and foremost, we're just configuring what image or video do we want to use. You always can modify the image or video that you add in to use different creatives on a per placement basis. So these ads run on both the Facebook Instagram streams and Instagram story placements. So if we had a really nice vertical looking creative that we wanted to use for stories in this section, we could go ahead and easily select and just change up the one that we're using for stories. We can also A/B test different variations of our ad as well. So if we potentially wanted to use a different creative in this section, we always can add in different variants, and we can use these buttons towards the top to preview what those different variations of the ad would look like. What our system does on the back end is based on whichever creative is performing better, that's going to be the one that we showcase more to people that come across your ad. You can use the default text that we populate for you in the post text section, but I'd highly recommend spend a little bit of time rewording this so it fits in more with the language that you use for your brand and your style. Everybody can normally tell from a mile away sometimes if something feels like it's been built by a robot. This one's a little bit more subtle as it's a pretty catch-all type of copy, but if you are spending money on your ads, I'd recommend try to get the best value for what you're actually doing, and by building a nice creative that captures attention, gives context, is branded to your organization and your events, the better the outcome is going to be. And then lastly, this section we can choose whether we want to be sending people directly to the Eventbrite event. That's normally best to do when we're in periods where people want to buy tickets or there is demand to buy tickets. We could send people to a Facebook event. That is very beneficial if we are further out from our event. Maybe we know not a lot of people are going to buy, but people could buy directly in the Facebook event if they want to. But at the very least, we're growing and we're building awareness about that upcoming event. And that generally is it for the ad design section. You might not necessarily need to do a lot in this section if you don't want to fully recustomize things or you just want to use the image from Eventbrite. And y'all, that's actually the last step of creating the campaign. The final things you might need to do is just sync up your Facebook if you haven't synced it up before. And then here we could choose what Facebook page do we want to run our ad from, and then what ad account do we want to pay for that campaign with. And you'll also get a breakdown of your targeting in this section. We're also including other audiences in the backend. So when we were going to the audience step, we actually only filled in an interest audience, but we are including here other audiences to kind of hedge the risk. We have audiences to move budget to if one of them isn't doing as well to make sure we're hitting that full purchase funnel and we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. So Boost helps use the data that you have available to craft you the best quality campaign without you having to put a lot of thought and effort into it. And then if you're ready to launch, you can simply hit the launch button or save things as a draft if you're not ready to get going. So y'all, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to take a brief moment to first and foremost thank you for your time and your attention today. We know how incredibly valuable it is, and we really appreciate you carving the time out of your day to come here and learn. I really hope you're walking away with some better information of how to approach marketing for your events. Do any of you in the chat here today have any questions before we jump and log off, or anything I could assist with here? We'll give it a quick sec as there is a little bit of a lag. Awesome, y'all. Well, I don't see any questions coming in, so I think this should be a good place to call it for today. I dropped our email in the chat too as well if you happen to have any questions. If you're watching this on a little bit of a delay or you think of something later, feel free to toss us an email in that section and we'll get back to you with some advice on how to get started or answer any question that you potentially have. And then let me also link you to our help center as well. If you're looking to explore more about the various features or content, there is also a link to our help center. So once again, y'all, my name has been Sam. Thank you so much for your time and have yourself an excellent rest of your week. Take care.